Now, obviously, Bears fans are sitting there twiddling their fingers and not just trying to keep warm, but to sit there and kill some time because they're missing their Bears football! Bears football! And they want to see what's next. Who's going to be the next general manager? Who's going to be the next head coach, by God? They can't wait to pretend to be really excited to be calling for him to be fired 3 or 4 years from now. The life of a Bears fan, the life of Bears football. But, well, there's a whole myriad of candidates. And the Bears are going through the interview process, it might as well be, the interview process to determine who their next general manager and head coach is going to be, which head coach is the focus of this video today. I understand that all of us are going to have different opinions about personal preferences and who we like, who we think is a good fit for the job, who we have questions about, who we say hell to the nizzaw about. But as I see people talking about some of these different candidates, like some of the things make sense and some of them don't. And I got to ask this. Why are Bears fans so gung-ho about a Jim Harbaugh or a Brian Flores, but say hell nah to Doug Pederson? That doesn't make any goddamn sense to me whatsoever. The Brian Flores shit to me is just ridiculous. I've already talked about that in the last video, or 2 videos ago, talking about how the Chicago Bears must say no to Brian Flores. He had 3 years in Miami, 0 playoff appearances, the whole shit about 2 of this, 2 of that. I agree. Like, I wasn't high on Tua coming out of Alabama. If you remember, I said the Dolphins fucked up by not taking Herbert. But once you have Tua, you have to do everything you can to help Tua, not play like tuna. And Brian Flores botched that situation. He fucked up Tua significantly. And I don't get why the hell you sit there and would want a guy like Brian Flores around Tua. I see some people talking about, well, look at the hatchet job that Doug Pederson did with Carson Wentz. Well, what the fuck did Brian Flores do with Tua? Well, Doug Pederson's guy got a bit of an attitude and rubs people the wrong way. Well, what the fuck do you think Brian Flores did? Brian Flores is the one that went through like 3 goddamn offensive coordinators, 3 quarterback coaches, 4 damn offensive line coaches. The hell do you think Brian Flores does? Well, he's young and he's got potential. Maybe he's a very good defensive coordinator under the auspices of Bill Belichick overseeing him. But that's vastly different than being a head coach. Doug Pederson, yes, he may have his flaws as all these characters do. And all these candidates do. That's life. Belichick has fucking flaws. And he's the GOAT of head coaches in NFL history. You have to see what strengths fit what you need and give you what you desire, and what weaknesses you can ignore or work around or aren't as relevant. But all of these head coaching candidates have flaws, damn it. They all have weaknesses. That's life. But if you want to develop a young quarterback, which again, I want to emphasize, if your whole point, your name in the game is developing Justin Fields, then why the hell would you want Brian Flores anywhere in Justin Fields' orbit? That makes no goddamn sense. At least with Doug Pederson, where you're going to make the statement of, well, look at what happened after Frank Reich left. Well, then I would argue, look who hired Frank Reich to be the offensive coordinator or whatever the fuck's in the first place to help develop Carson Wentz. And if you remember, it's a few years ago, mind you, but 2017, Carson Wentz was playing at an MVP level before he tore up his knee. He would have been the league MVP that year. And they still found a way to get it done when all was said and done with Nick Foles, who I now call Nick Fails, F-A-I-L-S. To me, it is astoundingly stupid. If we are talking about pure merits of the resume, which is what should matter here. Brian Flores over Doug Pederson is stupidity. I'm not here to say that Doug Pederson would be my top choice. I'm not here to say that he's absolutely the guy. I'm not here to say he's the only option. None of that. Because when it comes to the head coaching search, I frankly have been less focused on that because my philosophy is right. Got to get the general manager first, and that should be goddamn Rick Smith. Then you worry about who he wants as his head coach, and you take it from there. But you cannot hold up the resumes of a Brian Flores and Doug Pederson and say these look the same. Doug Pederson had a 3-year stretch where he won the division a couple of times, won playoff games, won a conference championship, and won a goddamn Super Bowl. Brian Flores undercut his young quarterback to try and make the playoffs, and he couldn't even do that. Stupid. Wanting a Brian Flores over a Doug Pederson is stupid. Not a matter of, oh, we all have opinions, they're like assholes, we all have them, and they all fucking smell like shit. No, yours smells like shit, because it's a shitty opinion. Jim Harbaugh over Doug Pederson is an infinitely less shitty opinion. I get it for Bears fans. They look at Jim Harbaugh and they see a guy that can come in and turn shit around quickly. He's got a history of that. San Diego State, Stanford, San Francisco, Michigan. Let's not talk about that one so much until this past year. But he's got a history of turning things around pretty quickly, building a culture quickly. He has some reputation for not turning and burning through a damn staff like a Brian Flores does, but actually finding at least quality coordinators in Vic Fangio on the defensive side and Greg Roman on the offensive side. Like, those guys were big keys to his success. You could point to the fact that he got more out of Alex Smith at that point in time of career than anybody had before that. Mind you, the bar for that is so incredibly low and ridiculous. But then when he went to Kansas City, Andy Reid got even more out of him. Why? Because Andy Reid is much better than Jim Harbaugh, period. And we won't entertain that debate, because there is no debate. But to that point in time, was the best Alex Smith ever played. And then he made the right call at the time to go with Colin Kaepernick midway through that 2012 season, which helped kind of spawn the 49ers and took them to another level and helped them become conference champions, and they made it to the Super Bowl. This is a guy, made the playoffs 3 straight years in San Francisco. There's success there. These type of guys typically don't come available all the time. So I absolutely get why Bears fans would be all in on Jim Harbaugh, especially when you know the Bears football mindset of, oh, he used to play for the Bears, so it means more to him, by God. Yeah, it's coming full circle. The last head coach of the Bears to win a championship for Chicago was a former player, and that was the coach, Ditka. So Harbaugh is Ditka. Ditka is Harbaugh. Harbaugh will come back to win a Super Bowl, and they rub it into Ditka's face. The coach, the Bears. And you could just picture that. Like you could see the fat-ass Chicago people sweating their Polish sausage and their wiener circle relish and everything else. Magnificent. But even then, I'm seeing people absolutely stand for Jim Harbaugh and totally dismiss Doug Pederson. Unlike what Lovie Smith once said in his introductory press conference in 2004, after the Bears, of course, swung and missed massively on their first target that offseason, which was Nick Saban, if you remember. And if you don't, you really shouldn't share shit about your Bears opinions with me because they are largely irrelevant. Lovie said, number one goal of the program, number one goal is to beat Green Bay. And even then I'm like, no, the number one goal of the program is to win the Super Bowl. Who gives a fuck about the Cheeseheads? You can lose to the Cheeseheads twice a year. Win 10, 11, 12, 13 games, win the division, go to the Super Bowl and win it. Let Green Bay have that. Who gives a shit? Green Bay fans would be perfectly content to lose to the Bears twice a year if they're playing in the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. Who gives a shit? Priorities, people, priorities. And yes, some people are going to point to, well, Harbaugh had a pretty good record at San Francisco against the Packers. Yes, but that's not the end state. That's not the name of the game here, folks. The name of the game is to win championships. It's a Bears football mindset to be fucking worried about a divisional rival that you obsess over that hardly pays you any goddamn attention because they're too busy trying to contend to win championships. No, the number one goal of the program is to win the Super Bowl. And if you want to win the Super Bowl, no matter how much you want to dismiss it, you're standing for the wrong goddamn Harbaugh brother. Ding dong, dumb dicks. If the name of the game is to win the Super Bowl, then why wouldn't you be interested in the head coach that actually won the Super Bowl? And that's Doug Pederson. And unlike Harbaugh, at least you look at that 2017 season, there was actually one season of elite level offensive play for the Philadelphia Eagles. Just like that was a kind of elite level defensive year for them. That was a really goddamn good team that was able to overcome the loss of their MVP candidate quarterback at that time. And Carson Wentz went with the backup Nick Foles and found the magic in the playoffs and got it done. How could you dismiss Harbaugh, or just stand Harbaugh to an nth degree, but dismiss Doug Pederson? It just makes no fucking sense at all. If the name of the game is to win the Super Bowl, Doug Pederson did it. If you say, well, the name of the game is also to develop Justin Fields. Okay, just how much developing of Colin Kaepernick did Harbaugh really do at the end of the day? And when you look at Alex Smith, like Alex Smith went from being a horrendous draft bust to being serviceable under Harbaugh and the 49ers. He became a solid, good quarterback in the NFL under Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. So let's not pretend like Harbaugh is some goddamn quarterback whisperer, even though he played the position at the NFL level. Doug Pederson was a quarterback in the NFL, yes, mostly as a backup, but it's a moot point. Also, Harbaugh as a player wasn't all that goddamn good. And a lot of you standing for him don't remember him as a player. I do. He wasn't that good. I promise you. The numbers will support that. But we're talking about coaching here. And if I'm going to have to go with a coach that can rub people the wrong way, but hires some decent people on his staff, and you might look back and you say, well, you know, the only person that got promoted to head coach off of Doug Pederson's staff was Frank Reich. Okay, Jim Harbaugh had quality coordinators. Well, Schwartz in Philly for that time was a solid defensive coordinator, whether you want to give him credit or not. Meanwhile, you look at the 49ers and you say, well, he had multiple head coaches from that staff ultimately. Yeah, but one of them wasn't offensive coordinator Greg Roman. It was defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, which came a few years later, mind you. And, oh, by the way, the other one was Jim Tom Sula, who was a one-year keep their fucking ass seat warm for this job so you can fucking hire Chip Kelly and fire him after a year. So I see so many things brought up about Brian Flores that just don't make any goddamn sense. And these same people will be like, I don't want Doug Pederson. Why? They'll talk about Jim Harbaugh and they'll talk about all these things. And I'll say, yeah, but Doug Pederson actually won the Super Bowl. And he beat fucking Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl. He outcoached fucking Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl. He got Nick Foles to outplay Tom Brady in the goddamn Super Bowl. But you would be so adamantly, diametrically opposed to Doug Pederson. Oh, bluest of blue fucks are you thinking? Look, if you have a preference for Harbaugh, I'm okay with that. I am, because I get it. Would be a big name hire. It would have more sizzle and sex appeal than the Doug Pederson hire. I get that. I'm just saying, if you're going to be okay with Harbaugh in these things, then you have to be okay with Doug Pederson in these things. And he actually did the thing that you supposedly want to do. Right? In a couple of years of working with him, and you could just credit Frank Reich all the hell you want to, but if Frank Reich was such a goddamn genius with Carson Wentz, why did Carson Wentz suck so much donkey dick in Indianapolis in 2021? Huh? See how that argument doesn't quite hold up? But you'd rather have a Harbaugh or a Flores over a Pederson? Harbaugh I get for different reasons. But even then, the dismissing of Pederson by those Harbaugh stands makes no goddamn sense. But the Brian Flores shit? Are you fucking kidding me? You'd rather have a guy that didn't make the playoffs, that mismanaged a young quarterback horrendously for a guy that at one point in time showed he could work with a young quarterback and won a Super Bowl. Are you crazy?